Hi, I'm Irina, and you're listening to Catholic versus Other.
Just tell the listener a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you believe, and how you came to believe it.
Okay, so I was born in 1976 in Romania, communist Romania, where religion was strongly discouraged. There was, in the cities, the churches were basically unavailable. In the small towns, people still went to church, but the teachers would be there in front of the door on Sunday morning to make sure that the school kids didn't go in and stuff like that. I did manage to get baptized. My parents baptized me as an Orthodox Christian, and I didn't attend much church services up until I came to Montreal, and the Romanian community were all sort of centered around the church. And so we did go, not for Mass so much, but we went to, different celebrations here and there throughout the year.
How old were you when you came to Canada?
I was 6, almost 7.
Any prayers before bedtime and stuff like that?
I learned that in school more than at home. My parents didn't pray. We didn't do any of that, but so at some point, I guess in the French, maybe the English system as well, we had religious studies in the elementary school level, and then I went to a private Catholic girls' high school. But religion was never imposed at home. And now I understand why it wasn't imposed at home, because if my father with his new wife are very religious. They go to church every Sunday, they have these icons. I brought them a Black Mary picture from Haiti, and they flipped out. They're like, this is not part of our religion. This is not what we believe in. This is like,
It could have been, maybe it's a voodoo thing that you brought her.
Well, do you know about voodoo?
Yeah.
Do you know how voodoo has been
appropriating Catholic saints? Yeah.
So, Herezuli is like the Mary or whatever.
I don't know all the names.
Except that if I show it to you, you'll see it looks exactly like an Orthodox Christian picture, but the woman doesn't even look black. Like, she doesn't have the features of a black woman. She has the features of a white woman, but in black. Maybe she was probably darker than whiter anyway. So it was really funny. So the reason I believe that religion wasn't imposed in my family life and upbringing was probably because my mother, she wanted to take the culture, like she wanted to do Christmas and Easter and stuff like that. But as far as the actual practicing of any ritual like prayer or anything else, she didn't grow up with that. Mm-hmm. And she knew that she's like officially Jewish, and that her mother gave them the option by not baptizing them. And she actually, when I was baptized, she was like kicked out of the church at my baptism. By the time my brother came around a couple of years later, they changed churches and they didn't tell the priest that she wasn't baptized, so she could be there. And so my mother kind of kept it very quiet. And this is what she explained to us over the Christmas holidays, that, she wasn't open about it because in her marriage, her husband was very denigrating, like just not very open to the whole idea of the Jewish culture, and would often use very strong negative words towards the Jews. And to this day, she's like, don't talk about it with your father. Don't ever mention it.
So are you excited to have found out that you are Jewish?
I'm very excited because I feel like it adds a layer to my life to a certain extent, but I'm not clear as to what exactly. For some reason, I feel like Jewish people have a very strong identity. They really, whether they're practicing or not practicing, they're very strongly attached to their Jewish roots. And so that somehow pleases me to think that I'm somehow a part of that.
Can you describe a little bit what your spiritual path has been as an adult?
Probably began with that whole hippie era where I went to a powwow, and then I met somebody who told me about a rainbow gathering, and then I went to a rainbow gathering, and then everything exploded.
Can you talk a little bit about rainbow, because that's not something that everyone knows about?
There's a lot of love in that place. It's crazy. It's like, my experience of it is that, especially that first rainbow gathering, people were there open-heartedly. And when you live in an open-heartedly way, like incredible things, like magical things happen, like beautiful encounters, things that you need just kind of show up. just really positive things. So, while we were cooking, people were playing music, and that was like part of how the meal was being made, basically, and before every supper, we would om together. So like at some point we were like 300 people oming together. And then there was like a period of talking and sharing and all these 300 people, right? Like sharing together. Then we om and then we do dishes. The next rainbow gathering, we were by this beautiful river with a waterfall that fell into this basin that you could swim into. And right before the waterfall, the kitchen was there right by the water side. So we sit in the river naked, washing dishes as the water flows by and like recuperates all of our organic stuff, and doing dishes sitting in the river was like one of my best memories. It was a really beautiful, eye-opening, heart-opening experience for me. And from that first gathering, we were next to an Atikamekw, Native American Atikamekw reserve. Because there was no alcohol allowed on the site, some of the people from the gathering would like canoe. You have to canoe there. We couldn't get there by car. You had to canoe to the reserve and go to the grocery store and buy wine or beer and drink it there, and then go back, or buy whatever little junk food or whatever that, because it's all wholesome, healthy, whatever. But I happened to connect with this one man, one of the organizers of the gatherings, and he was looking for a white eagle feather from the healer of the village. And so we did it. We made a couple of trips to the village, and on our second trip there, I believe, we went to the store, and there was this young, drunken Native American dude that was like following us in the store. And we get out of the store, and he's following us in the streets. My friend walks a bit slower, and the other guy catches up with him. And my understanding is that he's trying to tell him, look, can you just leave us alone? And then he walks back up to me, my friend, he goes, you know what? This is the nephew of the healing man of the village. But unfortunately, the healing man of the village passed away 6 months ago. But he invited us to his house. There's like 3 or 4 or 5 generations living under the same roof. And so we end up going to this home. And so the old woman welcomes us into her home. So we basically spend the afternoon eating bannock and having translated conversation with this woman who is explaining to us that she's 80 years old, had 12 children, and is the midwife of the village, and the sister of the healing man that died 6 months ago. And telling us her story, a little bit about her life and this and that. And what I retained from that story was that how she had 12 children, and none of her children or anybody else from the village wanted to take up the midwifery trade that she had, and how she was very sad about the fact that she was going to die relatively soon and there would be no midwife in this village, and therefore the pregnant women have to travel a distance in order to go give birth. How sad. And so we spend a couple of hours with her, and then it's time for us to go. And as we're headed down the stairs, she says, wait. And the nephew comes back with a white eagle feather from the healer of the village, which is handed to my friend. And he's like, oh my God, so touched. And it's fabulous, right? So he goes off, he found what he was looking for. And so we went from there straight to Vipassana for 10 days. And while I sat there meditating for 10 days, many things happened. But this woman came back into my dreams and to my meditation 2 or 3 times while I was there, like with the same message, I have something for you. Come back and see me. I have to teach you what I know. It just kind of came to me like that. And when I came back after the Vipassana meditation, which was also fabulous for many other reasons, because the Vipassana, do you know a bit about Vipassana, what it is?
Yeah, we can tell the audience.
It's 10 days where you are in a group, you're living and eating in a group, but you're supposed to be silent, observing yourself, not even making eye contact with other people, and sitting. There's 3 hours of mandatory meditation, but then there's 5-6 other hours of meditating, which are a bit more optional, but most people will do it either in their room or in the meditating hall. And I was pretty good. I woke up at 4 a.m. and I went and meditated in the hall, and I was very impressed with myself. And through that, basically the meditation is supposed to be the technique that the Buddha used. This is what S.N. Goenka says. Basically, you sit and you observe your breathing for the first 3 days. And then basically you start scanning your body for sensations. So tickling, prickling, heat, just observe it, let it be, and see what happens to it. And then you cleanse the body with these vibrations, up and down, like a basic cleanse of the entire body. And I believe the philosophy behind that is that whatever the darker, denser areas will eventually be brought back to life by the cleansing vibrations. And those darker, denser areas are shifting. They call it a sankhara. So a sankhara being like something that is stuck and dense within you. So this is what the Buddha used to cleanse himself, enlighten, and then share with others. And what I like about it, among a variety of things, is how it has to do with compassion for self, and has to do with compassion for others as well. Once you've felt how much pain you are in, then I feel like this compassion can be extended to others. And there's also a last part of the meditation, which is a heartfelt meditation, where you kind of focus in the heart area and you feel love and compassion for the rest of the world. You start off with people that you know, you imagine them and you visualize them, and then you kind of send off this like love and compassion vibration. I think that's what's going to heal the world, including ourselves, you know?
Why do you not call yourself a Buddhist? Because we could have done Catholic versus Buddhist. Because
Buddha, from what I understand, is an example. And let's follow that example. And that I am as precious, important, and even more of a teacher to myself than he will ever be to me.
Do you think you're eternal in one direction or in both directions? Or do you think you have a beginning and an end, or just a beginning, or no beginning and no end? You as a being?
In my last meditation, I feel like I've experienced a death and a rebirth. The dying part was really scary, but interesting that I could take it as far. I didn't take it as far as to actual dying, but in the same day of meditation, there was a rebirth. So I think maybe there is no death, really. I don't even want to intellectualize it so much, because to me, my path is about experience.
Okay. I have heaven awaiting me if I play my cards right. What do you have experientially awaiting you in the best case scenario?
I like the idea of, well, this is what I say, but who knows what's going to happen, is to live to maybe 120 and to spend at least the last 20 years or so meditating and seeing where that takes me. And I really feel like through observing these dense energies inside my body, healing happens and freeing up of different energies happens. I feel like I want to free up all this potential. I think that if I was to sit down and meditate for, I don't know, let's say it takes a month, then I could sit down on that piano and play whatever I want. This is where God comes in. But God to me is higher consciousness and love.
God is love.
To me, God is inside.
Could God be even before the creation of the physical universe, or does he need biological entities like yourself in order to subsist?
I'm not sure.
Do you believe in the physical reality?
Yes.
Okay. Buddhists don't, but you're not Buddhist, so that makes sense.
There you go.
You're a Jew.
I don't even know what, yeah, there you go. What do I believe? I believe that physical reality is a denser form of a higher form that's lighter and more free-flowing. And I believe that if I have a cancer in my body, it is basically some densified sankhara that shows up and gives me pain and gives me trouble because it wants to be seen, it wants to be observed, and it wants to be cleansed. And it is up to me to figure out how to do that.
So how does all of this alternative medicine or spirituality play into your day job? And what is it that you do, and how did you come to do it? Because I want you to connect the dots.
So I'm not officially a midwife, I'm a doula.
Okay.
And
What's the difference?
Doula has no clinical responsibility.
Okay.
So we educate, we teach, we prepare for birth, and we're there to suggest, to massage, to, be very hands-on. And so, yeah, that's my official work.
Doula.
But I was grateful. I was grateful for that dream and that image and that clear visual apparition through my meditation. But I wasn't going to go back and see her. But I came back to Montreal and I looked it up. I was like, midwifery, eh? What's there some sort of school for it? Some training, something? And I found the NHC, the Natural Healing Consultant Institute. So I go sitting in their library and I'm like, going, okay, I'm going to look at these books and see what this is all about. First book I see attracts my attention. I pick up and it's called Spiritual Midwifery. So I'm like, okay, I got to go here. That was it. I took some classes there for a couple of years. I took some personal development classes, nutrition classes, energetic healing classes like cranial sacral therapy. Through that, I did some Reiki as well.
But Vipassana frowns upon that?
So this is what I'm talking about, organized things, okay? They refused me on the basis of, you do Reiki, and in our experience, it's not compatible with Vipassana meditation. And then years later, I applied again, and I didn't write it down, so they accepted me. And so now, I applied to go again this year. They refused me on the basis that I do Reiki, without, yet again, me writing down that I do Reiki. Wow. And I'm like going, okay, so this is how I understand any path. I believe that your path, any religion, any philosophy is fabulous and fantastic as long as you take it all the way through. But when it is interpreted by the mass of people around it, and then as an individual, I have to comply with other people's interpretation, that hinders my freedom. You know what? Last time I thought about it, I felt into it. I didn't just think about it. I felt into it. And there was definitely something about this portion of my body when I was observing it.
The upper portion of your body?
Yes. There was a dissolution of my Bhangra. At some point, by observing, and cleansing, and observing, and cleansing, matter dissipates.
Okay.
There's no more matter. You're all like just these particles without definition, part of everything else. Mm-hmm. That's called the Bhangra.
Okay.
And to me, when that happened in this particular last time, the lower part was still solid, but the upper part
would disappear. It's like the ideal
dissipated.
Woman, really.
Fabulous.
Bhangra woman wanted.
But Bhangra means it means dissolution of physical boundaries, like true connection to all and everything. And somehow, I don't know if it has something to do with the Reiki. There was something, then there was a buzzing too.
Maybe they're right that it's not compatible?
I don't think it's not compatible. I think a new Reiki practitioner may have a hard time dealing with how strong the sensation is.
What if you're putting yourself in danger without realizing it?
You sit down and meditate. What kind of danger? Maybe to go crazy a little bit? That's possible.
Have you ever felt a little bit loopy, ever?
I'm always loopy. Right?
When I met you, I was working at the space agency in St. Hubert, Quebec, and I really was dabbling with insanity as a hobby. On my way home from work, I would talk to myself and talk nonsense. And at first it was just silly, but then it took over a little bit.
Yeah, from having read Dostoevsky and The Idiot,
okay.
Basically these moments of intense illumination that are not well accepted, understood, and supported. Because it's so different from your regular day-to-day interactions with people and with life and this and that. If you're not in a context of fully understanding and having people around you that can explain what's happened and how you best can integrate that experience into your life, then that you become disconnected from reality. This is what intense experiences are. Intense, I'm looking into doing ayahuasca maybe, but surrounded by people who understand and know the experience and can carry for you a little bit, you know? And you can share, and it's not considered to be weird and strange. And so I'm telling you, through these meditations, I mean, I've had Kundalini rising. Every time the Kundalini rises a bit more, and last time I went up to my third chakra, and it was like, whew.
I just want to say for the record that I believe in a spiritual world where there are demons, right? I don't know if you believe that.
We have demons inside of us. All these
So-
sankaras are demons.
Yeah, I'm very cautious about all that kind of stuff, New Age and
But the
energy work
difference
and
is
stuff
that
like
these demons, they need to be welcomed, and they need to be observed with compassion.
I don't consider the demons my friend. I consider them my enemy. You would see them more as a friend, or?
I would see them as an ally, a
Okay.
temporary ally.
Okie dokie. And what is their destiny? Ultimately.
The demons?
Yeah. Is there a happy ending for the demons? From their subjective experience?
I believe that part of my soul, whatever you want to call it, is that love, that God, that, and all that power that comes with it, but fantastic, fabulous power.
Is your higher self identical with my higher self?
I think so.
Okay. So we are one, you would say we are one, really, ultimately, the ultimate reality.
That's my feeling of it.
Are you pro-life or are you pro-choice with abortion?
I don't think this world needs to be populated. I don't
Okay.
feel like we need more people in this world to be more brilliant or to work harder or to whatever it is. I feel like we have to take care of the ones who are here. And when I think about, but what about those poor babies that were conceived or fetuses that were conceived? I think, for having had abortions myself, that every conception and every life, as short as it is, has a meaning, has a place. And so I think every life, short or long, is perfect and purposeful, and we need to focus on bettering ourselves and not necessarily creating more humans in this world that won't necessarily have the love and the care and the attention and the consciousness to develop into prophets.
Usually in the second part of the interview, I ask people if they have any questions about my conversion or my faith, anything about Christianity in general or Catholicism.
For having learned and read a little bit, I think I understand, and I'm not going to ask, why is sexuality such a horrible, bad, and terrible thing, you know?
Can I just say in the defense of the church that sex is not evil, it's good. It's a very, very high and dignified good. That's why we treat it with such respect, and we don't just treat it like sharing a bag of chips, right?
Fine. Then, so for example, in the Orthodox religion, priests can marry, right? This is why, because these people who are priests, who are supposed to be the servants of God, the ones who are most dedicated, well, maybe they're not at the point where they cannot address their sexuality, right? So if you're still at the place where you desire in a wholesome, hearty way, then why not?
There should never be an imposition from without. It has to be a calling from God Almighty to the priesthood. And you have to discern, am I called to celibacy? Because we're all called to chastity. Even those who are married are called to chastity. Chastity just means pure sexuality, where it's a proper...
Really? Is that what it means?
It's a proper, pure sexuality. Sex as it was meant to be, as God created sex. But sex outside of marriage, masturbation, adultery, all these sorts of things are forbidden. Why? Not because the pleasure is not good. The pleasure is good. It's because that's not what sex is made for. So, just to wrap up, what would you say to anyone that's listening?
Life is wonderful, and even though there's a lot of despair, there's a lot of, negativity surrounding me, we can choose to see that as our enemy, that all the demons in this world could be our enemy, or we can choose to look at them and say, for the time being, they're our guides. If Trump got elected, it just means that there's something we have to look at. There's a sickness in our society, and it's inevitable. We can't, it's like a cancer. It's like the cancer in our society that keeps growing and growing, and we can't get away from it, but we can observe it, and we can accept it, and then true answers come when we stay in that compassionate and accepting frame of mind. So I don't think we're doomed. Maybe some of us are doomed. Maybe some cancers of our society are going to eat us up. Who knows? But I think it's all about staying present and compassionate and loving and accepting what is as it is and accepting that it'll pass and it'll change.
If you like your worldview, if you think it's swell, if you got some questions, ask me and I'll tell. All you got to do is ask. All you got to do is